Welcome to The Soul Space, the podcast that inspires you to discover your truth, ignite your passion, and align your life with the power of who you really are. I'm Georgia Rose, psychic astrologer. I share the cosmic roadmap that guided me through astrology, tarot, and inner knowing into authentic living. I'm here to help you decode your soul's cosmic story, reconnect with your passion, and create the life you are meant to live. It all starts within, and it all starts now in the soul space. Hey, everybody. How are you doing on this beautiful Monday? Not so beautiful here on Long Island. It is a nor'easter here on Long Island in the northeast of the United States. I am Georgia Rose, and I am your psychic astrologer, and we have a lot to unpack tonight. I hope you're all doing great. So I'm just going to look in my chat, and I'm going to make sure I know who's on. I know a lot of you are watching at home. We are now on YouTube Live on Strong Island Television every Monday at 7 o'clock. And of course, you can also get replays on every podcast platform imaginable. If you like the content of tonight's show, you can share it. You can subscribe to us at Strong Island, and you can also subscribe to my site at Zencuda. And if you like what I'm saying so much that you want a personal reading, you can find me on Zencuda.com, where you can book, pay for a reading, and do the whole thing with just a couple of clicks. So welcome, Sarah, into the soul space tonight. Just going to give everybody a little time to pile on. It was such an interesting day today. We've had this nor'easter go up the whole east coast of the United States. And for those of you who maybe are in other countries, a nor'easter is when a major storm with a lot of rain comes from up the northeast and just kind of pummels everything. And so we had a tremendous amount of rain here. I was lucky. My house is bone dry, but a lot of people have some flooding issues. Nothing too major. But I'm an adrenaline junkie. So being that it was actually a holiday today, it used to be known as Columbus Day in the States, and now is Indigenous Peoples Day. Everything has a changed name, right? We want to honor our Indigenous people. I love excitement, and it was a day off. So I went to the beach. Yes, I went to the beach to watch the nor'easter, and I couldn't believe the waves. They were about maybe as big as a 2-story house rolling in with a lot of action and activity, and it was absolutely wonderful energy, and I'm so glad I went. One of the things that has been coming up for me when I think about the energy that's just in the world right now, which I think is going to accelerate a little bit between now and the end of the year, is the idea of taking some time to be in our own personal space, because things are really moving fast and really accelerated. And many, many people are finding that they're much more connected psychically to past loved ones, to other energy, to guides, because we're coming into a very different state of consciousness globally, all humans. So it's really important. We've got an echo. So really important when we're in this kind of energy in the world to make sure we're taking time out just to spend time with ourselves, to ground. And even though the beach was very angry and very busy and rainy and windy today, it refreshed me and I felt really grounded there. It was just beautiful. So tonight's show is actually a subject that's pretty dear to my heart. We're going to talk about projection versus reality. Now, I know that sounds really deep, but it really isn't, because we all not only are the victims of projection from other people sometimes, but we also experience projection in our own lives when we do it. And I don't just mean, when we have maybe heated argument with someone and we have projection and we project something on them that really isn't there, or we get things projected on us. What I'm talking about is when we project qualities on someone that they really don't deserve. And then we enter into relationships, whether it's a business agreement or friendships, and we keep looking for those qualities. So think about that for a minute. Where in your life have you assigned qualities to someone before they actually showed them to you and ended up disappointment? And while you think about that, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my weekend. So it was a really special weekend for me. It was a birthday. Thank you, everyone, for all of my birthday wishes. It was absolutely amazing. My very good friend Margaret and my friend Karen asked me to go out and listen to some music with them on Friday night. And I did not realize they were planning birthday crowns and cupcakes and candles and all kinds of festivity when I walked into the place. So we have a couple of pictures of that. But also, not only did I have a birthday celebration, but I also won a very prestigious award this weekend. And we have some pictures that Bobby's going to put up. So this first picture is me winning an award, and I won the award. I actually have to read out what it is, but I won the award from the New York State Assembly as one of the 25 most distinguished women. And it was quite an honor, I have to say. The women that I actually took the stage with were amazing people. I mean, I was just to be in the company of what some of these women have done was absolutely stunning to me. I couldn't believe it. I literally, when they read my bio, I was like, who is this woman? Because it just seems so much. So the New York State Assembly 2025 Woman of Distinction Award is on something that happens to honor people who have made a difference in their communities through outstanding contributions, achievements, both personal and professional, and are role models for diverse backgrounds and have broken barriers and paved the way for future generations. So I was really honored to get that award. And then we had some pictures of my birthday. So it was just a fun-packed weekend. It's always nice. There's the random birthday party. And then I was so ticked off when I walked in at first. I just had a joke around and they made me wear this silly crown. So I told them all to F you. And then we had a great time. We were dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. It was a really nice time. Sometimes your friends know what you need more than you do. And that was one of those occasions because I didn't realize that I needed to have so much fun and kind of be lighthearted. And it was a great night. So thank you, Margaret and Karen. And thank you to our town supervisor, Richie Schaefer, Nassau County supervisor of Oyster Bay, Joe Saladino, and of course, Assemblyman Mike Durso, who really presented me with an amazing award that I will never forget that day as long as I live. So back to the show and back to our subject at hand. So want to talk about projection versus reality, but I want to talk about projection versus reality in the sense of the things that we project on people that they don't deserve. I don't mean projection in the sense of when we're in an argument and we put our feelings on someone that maybe we exaggerate or whatever. I'm talking about when we have a relationship with a business partner or a friend, or mostly remote romantic relationships, where we assign things to people before they've actually shown us who they are. And we assign things like dignity and respect and integrity and wiseness and all kinds of things. And sometimes we do that because maybe in the beginning of relationships, everyone's on their best behavior and maybe that person had a few of those qualities. But then what happens is, we meet someone and it seems really good and everything seems, like we're really in sync, we're compatible, we exaggerate all the beautiful things about them, and we start to fill in the blanks before we take the time to let them fill in the blanks. And what happens is we hand them an awful lot of power. I call it handing them the crown. And we hand them this crown, and then when their crown kind of falls off or their crown gets a little tarnished, we start to get really disappointed, but yet we still don't allow ourselves the clarity of seeing who they really are. And the reason why I want to do this show tonight is because I really want to help people with this, because this has been very much a pattern in my life, and I've learned from it. But also because Pluto, the planet of transformation, the planet of what is deeply embedded inside of us that needs to come out into the light, is going direct Tuesday, tomorrow. It's been retrograde for several months. And when Pluto goes into its direct line, its direct motion, it's all about truth. It's all about revealing what's true. And when we project these emotional stories onto people that really didn't happen, right? Like we tell people, like I can remember I had a partner one time that wasn't really a hard worker, but we had a lot of abundance because I was a hard worker. And I would always give him the credit for our success. When it really, I deserve some of that credit, but I put it on him so that he would feel manly or he would feel good, not and diminishing myself. It was a story I was telling myself. None of it was real. So that type of projection. And the reason we do that is because we hope things are that way. There's something within us that we need that. We need it to be that way. We need that story. We do everything in our power to avoid seeing the story they're telling us. We just keep editing the script. We just keep rewriting history. We just keep rewriting the present time. We don't allow ourselves to see the clarity. And so we keep adhering to a script that is not real. Well, Pluto in Aquarius going direct is going to burn that script. Pluto in Aquarius going direct doesn't allow for any room of delusion, storytelling. No, Pluto in Aquarius, along with a few other planets that are circling the globe right now in strategic plots, which we'll go into, Pluto in Aquarius wants to reveal stuff. It wants the realization to come in. Just think about that word, realization. It doesn't want the blankets that we're throwing over what's real. You know, we could have a broken bed and put the most beautiful cashmere duvet on it, and it might look very nice, and we might tell ourselves every day we have the best bed in the world, but it's still a broken bed in reality. And that's what we do with our relationships. And we project these things onto people that really isn't there. So Pluto going direct in Aquarius, that transit is all about truth. And it's about seeing clearly. And it's about taking your power back. Pluto shows us where we're disempowered. And it wants us to be powerful. Pluto in the chart, in evolutionary astrology, which is what I do, means your soul and your soul's mission and your soul's desire. So throughout our lifetime, Pluto, depending on where it's transiting the chart, will give us lessons through experience, through events, in order to bring us to the realization of what our soul really is telling us to do and asking us to do in this lifetime. So we're in these relationships and they're disempowering us. But we're telling ourselves a story, making it look like they're not disempowering us. And we have to reclaim our power in order to live our own story. Because what we're doing is really harming ourselves by, first of all, not allowing ourselves to live our true story, but also delaying time and delaying our cosmic lessons and delaying our soul's desire. We're just going to repeat it again in the next life if we delay it forever in this one. So we give someone that crown, we give someone that power. We live in this story that's not real. And we handed that to them not because there's something wrong with us. We handed that to them not because we're deficient or not worthy or we're dreamers or idiots. It's none of that. We handed it to them because our soul wanted to believe. We really wanted to believe in the beginning that this was this person, that we finally found someone who really understood us, who was everything we dreamed of. And sometimes in doing that, it's too painful for us to go into the realization of what it really is. Because that means we have to let go of the fantasy. It means we have to let go of maybe this isn't really the story I want it to be. And that means the ending is going to be maybe difficult and hard. And I might grieve. And we're so afraid of that we just keep the story going. And every time they show us who they really are, we avoid it. We edit it. We make excuses for it. We might get angry. We might try to end the relationship for a couple of days, but we always go back because we don't want to face that ultimate grief. And I know this is true because when I've been in these situations and I have finally taken the power back, the grief was really rough because it was so deep. Because for years with different people, I kept up the storytelling. And when we finally realized the truth, it's hard and it's dirty and it's messy and it's gritty. But I'm here to tell you, it's also the most rewarding thing that you can ever do. Because underneath all that BS and everything that you've assigned someone, and it could be a friend, it could be anybody, you know, they're taking your power, they're disempowering you with this story that you're putting out. And every time we keep that story going, we get a little more invested in the story and a little less invested in ourselves and our own soul's desire. And that's really painful. And we've squashed all that pain down. So sometimes when we finally release that relationship, that pain all comes up. But it's temporary. And it's pain that we have to walk through in order to get to the soul's desire. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is here to burn the script, not just rewrite it. You know, projection is a form of emotional storytelling. It's not based on reality. It's based on hope. And the one thing Pluto is not about is hope. Pluto is about actual transformation. And The problem with hope is that sometimes it paralyzes us, because when we're so enraptured in hope, we're not doing something. We're just hoping. And after a while, it becomes evident when we start to feel like an idiot. We start to feel like an a-hole, that we're in this situation. Why am I doing this? We start questioning ourselves. We start getting down on ourselves. We start being diminished. We start to get depressed, empty, feeling like a shell, because we're living in this story that's not real. And what that really is living in that hope that it'll go back to the way it was, or those moments that we have, because sometimes when people exhibit narcissistic personalities, or they're even, a little bit narcissistic, they charm and they harm, right? That we have those special moments that keep us in the game, and then they harm us when they show us who they really are. But then we keep thinking about the charm, not the harm. And that's the cycle. And so we have that hope for the charm, for the righteous relationship, the right feeling, the in sync part. And what happens and becomes evident is that hope that we have for all that, it's really self-abandonment. Because we're so invested in the story, and we're so invested in hoping that the story is real and making that story real through avoidant behavior and through any kind of mechanism complex we got to run to keep the story going, that we completely abandon our own real story of who we really are and where our power lies. And that's why we do it, because we're so afraid to face what we need to face. So how do we overcome this? How do we get to a place where we really can stop handing the crown, handing the power over to people who really haven't showed us their integrity, their worthiness, their goodness, right? Well, there's a couple of different things we can do. But the first thing I want to say before we go into the strategy is there's nothing wrong with you. Every person on the planet wants to be loved, and every person on the planet hopes for love, and every person on the planet is invested and susceptible to those things when we think we've found it. So your soul is looking for love. And especially for those of us who are open and empathic and compassionate people, a lot of times the not so nice people will find us because we're givers and they're takers. And that's the match. Empaths give. We forgive all the time. We understand. We see the other side. We want to help you. I went through that too, and I know what that feels like. And they'll take every bit of that from us. They will take every bit of that because they're takers. And there are two types of people in the world, the givers and the takers. I remember in the last show we talked about being able to receive. So it's very important for those of us who are empathic and compassionate to be able to receive, because that is also great insulation from being taken advantage of from the takers. So strategy, because Zenkuda is all about soul with strategy. We're going to not only go deep and find out what we need to do to get our full power and be living from full potential, we're also going to find strategies so that we can do it. So, tips to cope with when reality hurts. So we've got the story going, right? He's really good. No, he's really a great provider. Oh my God, I hope the mortgage gets paid this month, you're thinking. Or maybe we're like, oh, he's so romantic. Meanwhile, he forgot your anniversary, right? Little things like that aren't that big a deal. But when the person really shows you that they're self-centered, they're mean, they're arrogant, they're hateful sometimes, someone who's really not your match. So first thing I'm going to tell you is stop explaining yourself. And that's even to yourself in your self-talk. There's nothing wrong with you. Everyone goes through this because everyone wants love. That's all. You're a good person. You're looking for love. Someone showed you love and you thought that's who they were. And again, this could be a friend. It could be a business partner that showed you they were responsible only to find out they really weren't, etc. So the first thing is stop explaining yourself. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth, and you don't need to convince yourself of your worth. You should know it. And if you don't, then make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who do see your worth. Because it's just like when I was sitting on that chair Saturday and I won that award, and they're reading my bio, and I thought, who is this woman? Like, who did all this stuff? I can't believe I did all this stuff. And I did. And that was me. I've just, over a lifetime, we all do stuff, right? We don't take it into consideration every moment of every day. And I allowed myself to receive it. When the applause was in that room for me, I allowed myself to hear it. And I allowed myself to say, wow, I did some really great things. That's really nice. Not in an arrogant way, just in a way that I am somebody. I am seen. I deserve to be heard. I have something important to say. We all really deserve that. And we deserve to tell ourselves that. And when we get strong in that, then the storytelling stops because we know our worth and we don't have to pretend. We're not afraid to say goodbye to something that doesn't support our worth. So stop explaining yourself. You're a good person. Everyone makes some mistakes in life. Chalk them up to, hey, I didn't learn that lesson yet back then, and keep moving and go to the things that really make you feel good about yourself. That's going to help. Create a reality anchor. Either journal what actually is happening in these relationships that aren't living up to what you really need and want and desire. Not what you hoped. You're not going to write about what you hope or what you think you saw or what was promised to you. Or what they did or what they said or what you did and they said. No. Because you're gaslighting yourself when you do that. Yes, we gaslight ourselves. Newsflash, shocker there. When we tell ourselves the story of a relationship that's really not what it is, and we're covering up for people because they're not really what they should be for us to be deserving of our love and be deserving of our time and energy. When we cover that up and we tell stories, we're gaslighting ourselves. So start a journal. It could be an oral journal. You can just, some days I talk into my phone and talk about what actually happened. Because people have a tendency to forget because we let them. We gaslight ourselves, and now when we start gaslighting ourselves, like, everybody's off the hook. Everybody's off the hook then. Because it's never going to be brought up and it's never going to be acknowledged and you're never going to get what you deserve. So stop explaining yourself. Create a reality anchor, a journal that is the truth of what actually happened. And when you read that back, you will not accept the behaviors anymore of people who don't meet you in the giving and take balance. Sun's in Libra, all about that give and take balance. And you have to let go of the projection because you have to grieve the fantasy. Cry, rage, write, burn the old scripts. The grief is sacred. Your soul is detoxing. That's really what's happening. A lot of times when I work with people, either through astrology or Reiki, and they're doing this work where they're eliminating, removing themselves gently with love, walking away or moving away from relationships that are toxic, oftentimes they become extremely heightened in their emotion and feeling. And that's because your soul is detoxing and opening, and there are places in your soul and even in your physical body and in your consciousness that you've never allowed to be real before. So you get really sensitized. I remember one time I had a client that was just ended a marriage where he was very much in, detriment, and he was always crying. He used to cry all the time and apologize for it. And I would say, no, don't apologize, because that's your soul detoxing. You're allowing yourself to finally have real emotion that you have been putting down and squashing for years. So you're going to become very heightened in the type of energy once you start to feel the grief. And that's good. That's okay. It means you're coming alive. It means you're allowing yourself to really feel. So how do you stop the projection itself? That's how you deal with it. You got to create a reality anchor. You've got to stop explaining yourself, and you have to allow yourself to feel the grief. It won't last forever, I promise you. It's going to be okay. So let's talk strategy. How do we stop handing out those crowns to people who really aren't royalty? And how do we stop giving away our power? How do we take it back? Well, first of all, we got to stop giving it away. So hack 1, ask, not assume. Instead of assuming someone is kind, ask them, are you a kind person? Like, how are you kind? What do you do that makes you feel like you're kind? How do they treat me when I'm vulnerable? That's a really big question. When you have a problem, you're injured, you're sick, you're hurt, you're feeling badly, you had a disappointment, is that person there, or are they absent? Do they ridicule you or criticize your emotion? Do they tell you that you're overreacting, that you're not feeling the right way, that you're not thinking about things the right way? Or do they sit by you and hold space and be empathetic in your vulnerability? Do they show up when it's inconvenient? I remember one time I dated a man and I had had a car accident, and all of a sudden I turned around, he was there. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing here? And he's like, I know when to show up. That's just what he said to me. I'll never forget it. So ask yourself these questions. Don't assume. And the really big one is, do they take accountability? Whether it's a parent, a child, a coworker, a friend, a boss, a business partner, do they take accountability? The answer to that question should absolutely be your barometer of how much time, energy, and love you're ready to give to this person, and how the relationship should be as far as what you invest in it. So I remember when I was married a long time, and I remember when I was getting divorced and I was seeing a therapist, grief therapist. I always mention her, Adrienne DeSalvo. And I remember I started to put myself in the dating pool, and I had had a couple of really misfires. And I said to her, how do you, I haven't dated in 20 years. How do I know, if I should date them? And she said, well, you go out on one date with them and you watch and you observe. How were they driving the car in traffic? If your table wasn't ready in the restaurant, were they impatient? How did they react? And I'll never forget her telling me these things. And at the time I thought, this is really weird. It sounds like basic. It sounds like I'm some kind of a snob or something. And boy, was she right. Just observe people. And we don't do that. We think someone has a nice smile and they start chatting us up and they seem really friendly. So now, oh, they're so nice. Oh, she would never do that. Oh no, she didn't seem like that type of person. We don't even know them. We don't even know them. But we've assigned everything to them because that's our story. That's the story we want to tell ourselves, that these people are great. They're nice. They're wonderful. So watch the patterns, not the apology. All right? Because if someone is jiving with you and meshing with you, then there shouldn't have to apologize for anything, like an outburst in traffic, things like that. Words are cheap. Patterns are sacred. That is absolutely true. You can write that in your journals. Words are cheap. Patterns are sacred. So remember, it's not about the story we tell. The words, they're cheap. It's about the patterns that are sacred, ours and theirs. Because even when someone is not living up to our expectations or maybe not treating us the way we should, that is a sacred pattern that we have been put there in that moment to experience for our own soul's growth. So words are cheap. Patterns are sacred. They're there for a reason. Everything we go through in our life is happening to bring us to a place eventually of heaven, joy, love, as long as we use them correctly as the soul lessons they are. So watch those patterns. If someone keeps hurting you and apologizing, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle. And your soul is putting you in that cycle to show you its true desire, which is probably get out of the relationship, go through whatever grief you have to go through. And there'll be different levels of that depending on if it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or a coworker or a business relationship. But really observe those cycles. Because if someone keeps hurting you and apologizing, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle. That's not love. So that's hack 2, is watch the patterns, not the apology. Hack 3 is mirror work. And Yvonne, if you're listening, you refreshed my memory to do this. And I was told it a long, long time ago. And then a couple of years ago, you told me, and I do it every day. I actually did a little video today. I have a little card up on my light switch in my bathroom that every day when I get ready for work and I'm ready to walk out the door and, my hair and makeup's on, I'm looking good, I put that card out of the little switch plate, and it's a card that on the back it says, "To Georgia, from Georgia Rose." And the card talks about how I am loved and I am important and I am worthy. And that's what we call mirror work. You look in the mirror and you say, I am worthy of love that doesn't require editing. I'm worthy of love that doesn't require me to rewrite someone's truth. And I release that need. I choose reality over fantasy. I choose real over the story. And that's really what you want to do. Now, if you need a ritual, you can light a candle. You can write down every trait that you've projected onto someone who didn't earn it, and then write what they actually showed you. And I'll bet you're going to find a lot of editing, a lot of storytelling. And then after you write down what they've actually shown you, burn the projection and keep the truth. And say aloud, I take the crown back. I'm wearing it myself. I am sovereign, I'm awake, and I am powerful. I don't need to rewrite a story. I don't need to gaslight myself. I know what's real, and I deserve love that's real. So that's a nutshell. It's a very deep, deep topic, and maybe we'll do some more shows on it. But I got to tell you, this is the breakthrough. This is the breakthrough of life, major, when you can do this and you can really surround yourself with real relationships, real connections. It's everything. And I want to just say about this topic, and then I'm going to go to some astrology relating to this, is you didn't fail because they couldn't love you. And a lot of times, especially when we come from backgrounds or childhoods where maybe we were a little damaged or, have some trauma, we stay in this storytelling behavior because we really think no one's going to love us because we're the damaged ones or we're the land of the misfit toys. And you didn't fail because they couldn't love you. You succeeded in seeing the truth if you can get through this part of things. Pluto is direct. The veil is gone. Pluto is burning the script. Pluto is throwing the storybooks away. And now you get to choose peace over projection, because none of these relationships are bringing peace to you. They're full of doubt. They're full of confusion. They're full of anxiety because you're waiting for the story to unfold in maybe a not so good way. But now you get to take the crown back and wear it like the truth fits. So just remember that. This is not about that you're unlovable. This is not about that you failed. This is about you making a choice that's really real and correct for you. Okay? So and that's really an important part. So just know that you are able to reclaim this energy. And now I'm going to go into a little bit of the astrology. But also, if anything in this episode resonates, please share it, because all of my content is meant to be shared. The whole reason why I wanted to broach this topic today is because I was thinking about a lot of things in my own life, and I realized that when we're with an energetic mismatch, your nervous system is picking up on everything, and it's so detrimental because the things that you really want to do in your life, the things that are important to you, the things that are valuable to you, we have Venus being aspected a lot in the sky right now, which is all about the things we value. So that's another reason why these things are coming to the surface about the things that are really important to us. When we're attached to things that are energetic mismatched, relationships like that, the things that we value and want to do, that we need our energy for, the energy is not there to do them because we get drained. Our body feels sick. It's saying this isn't safe all the time. You're with someone, maybe you're even having intimacy with them, and you don't feel safe. And then you wonder why the next day you're exhausted. Or you feel like you ran a marathon when you wake up the next morning and didn't really do anything the day before. This is all because your energetic mismatch is taking your energy away. All of your consciousness and all of your soul's desire and your soul's energy is going towards that instead of living the life you were meant to live. You also feel sick from these things because there's a lot of emotional residue. If someone repeatedly violates your boundaries, your nervous system starts to associate their presence with stress. And even when you love them and care about them, that doesn't change. You still associate them with some form of stress. And that's why you get sick. You're feeling drained and tired. And then you're also holding two conflicting truths which drain your energy. You're saying, I love this person. And it could even just be one of your best friends. You're saying, I love this person, but they hurt me. And so you've got this internal war that creates all this physical discomfort. I know whenever I'm in those situations, a lot of times my joints start to hurt, my body starts to ache because I'm producing all kinds of chemicals within my body that cause inflammation and cause bad health. So just remember that. You want to start to break away from these patterns and really start to go where your soul wants you to go, your soul's desire. That's all about Pluto in Aquarius. And just remember, your heart's trying to reconcile love with reality. That's what the soul really wants to do, especially Pluto in Aquarius, because Aquarius is all about our individuation and knowing our own personal truth and embracing it. So when you're in a mismatched energetically, Pluto in Aquarius is going to blow that up in some way or another. And if you don't do the work yourself, the universe will force the work in a way that may be unpleasant. That's just the way life works. So you're not crazy, you're not weak, you're just human, and your heart's trying to reconcile love with reality. So just ask yourself, does this connection honor me or not? Does this connection healthy for me, right? And I'll do more on this. I'm even thinking about doing a class on this because it's just so deep. All my Scorpio planets, I just love deepness. So I'm going to go into some of the transits now. So October 11th, which was Saturday, Venus opposed Saturn. And when Venus opposes Saturn, a lot of times things will come up in our life that we feel limited with. It's almost like holding us back from our desire that we want to do. But now that's waning. It's moving away from that aspect. And Venus went into Libra yesterday. No, Venus goes into Libra today. I'm sorry. Today's the 13th. Venus went into Libra, which means that there's a lot of beauty, harmony, and balance. But it's also going to highlight our partnerships. So if our partnerships are not super balanced and in harmony in Libra, remember I talked about that a couple of shows back. You can find that on my YouTube channel, Zenkuda. I talked about how we configure ourselves through relationship, right? Even tonight, what I'm talking about, we're configuring ourselves mismatching, right? Because we're getting sick and nervous and anxious about something. That's what happens in relationships. When they're harmonious, we feel great and energized. We can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. So Venus in Libra is highlighting the relationship and is it in balance or not. Then tomorrow, Venus opposes Neptune. Pluto goes direct. Now, when Venus opposes Neptune, this is a tricky one because Venus opposing Neptune, Tuesday the 14th, it's love, dreams, illusions. It sometimes reorders our reality as far as love goes. And that's why I wanted to do this show tonight, because that's a big part of this energy that's coming out in the world. We're going to start to reevaluate all of our major relationships and hold them against our very own values. And when Venus is opposite Neptune, it starts to show us those realizations. What's fantasy? What's not? What's real? What's not? I'd love to hear your comments about anything that's going on in your life that's actually, having this be truthful, what I'm saying. And then after Pluto goes direct in Aquarius, Venus trines Uranus and Venus trines Pluto. What does that mean? Well, we're talking about Pluto a lot on this show. So when Venus trines Pluto, it's a harmonious aspect, but it's going to bring the soul's desire for love into the forefront because Pluto is our soul's desire. Venus is love. It's also our values. It's the things that we find important. It's not just romantic love. Venus is three-dimensional love. It could be love for your children, parent, child, sister, sibling, wherever Venus is in your chart. It can also sometimes be material possessions. So you may find yourself in a pickle about material possessions versus your spiritual values. So really interesting energy, but it's all about relationship right now with the sun in Libra, with Venus in Libra. Venus is at home in Libra. It's ruling Libra. So this is really all about relationships, guys, all kinds of relationships. So we want to choose truth over illusion. As the veil lifts with Pluto going direct, what's been hidden, especially in relationships and power dynamics, comes into full view. Put those microscopic glasses on, their X-ray vision on, and really look at this stuff. It's also about reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your power. We're called to stop giving away our power to people who really don't deserve it. In systems, in the stories we tell that don't honor us. And that could also even be structures in your life, the containers we've built, cultural, religious. And it's also going to be a collective detox for the world because remember, the world is still purging all of these outdated structures. Individually, we're purging our projections, our false identity and our toxic attachments. But that's going on globally with every human in the world in some way or another. So projection is the illusion, reality is the awakening, and the crown is your power. And Pluto is asking, who have you given it to? Who have you given the crown to? It's time to take it back and put it on your own head, because we're being asked to stop projecting and start reclaiming. And that is about everything that I had to say tonight. Oh, wait, I do have a couple other transits I want to talk about. Mars is still in Scorpio, so we're going to feel this stuff deeply intense. This is about confronting the hidden motives. You know, it's perfect for calling out manipulation and reclaiming your boundaries, but always, always do that in a loving way. You know, sometimes a letter or an email is best. You don't want to have big confrontations. Saturn is still in Pisces. It's going to be there for a while until it goes direct again. It's dissolving our illusions, and it's making us accountable in a spiritual way. So don't be surprised if you see changes in some people that maybe in the past have not lived up to your expectations. But what I'm going to tell you is they're not going to last. We're in a phase now where some people just have had a realization that they need to be kinder or they need to be more respectful. But unless they have completely changed their consciousness, raised their soul frequency, it's probably not going, unfortunately, to last. So you have to ask yourself, what's my truth? Saturn in Pisces is also great for discussing emotional responsibility, and also is great for healing. So a lot of the universe is really in play right now to give us the push we need to find truth in our relationships. And Uranus is still in Gemini, and Uranus is going to be giving us a lot of changes because Uranus is actually trining Venus on next tomorrow. And when Uranus trines Venus, it sometimes will create sudden and shocking events or experiences in order to shock us out of the illusion, the projection, the storytelling. So just remember, it's time to wake up, reclaim your power, stop rewriting their story, and start living yours. All right? So thank you for joining me tonight. This wasn't just a podcast. This was a Pluto portal. And I'm glad that you stepped through it. Now take your crowns back. I'm going to go and do that. And you know where to find me, everybody. You can find me on Zenkuda. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube at Zenkuda, please do so tonight. We've got over 200 videos there. The channel is growing. I want to be able to do lives there soon. And you can find me on social media at Zenkuda Soul Space. You can find me on Instagram at Zenkuda Official. And also, if you want a reading to dive deeper into this more, why do you give your crown away? What does your chart say about that? And what does the future hold for you? Book a reading at Zenkuda.com. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back here next Monday night in the Soul Space. I hope you'll join me. And share the show. Tell your friends. If you think this resonates with somebody, send the show to them. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.